Three, two, one. Good morning, viewers and listeners. You're listening to Ammar and
Jalf.
live on our weekly show.
And each week we'll bring some views, news, and one or two clues from the business world.
Asian Business Connections aims to connect, support, and promote the Asian and wider communities.
And we'll be talking shop quite literally and not just corner shops. Whether you're looking to start a business, have an existing business, or you just want to talk business, we can help.
We can help. We can help. And I must admit that I missed you last week, but it was wonderful, Jeff, because it gave me the opportunity to bring in Ben from the SME Centre of Excellence and talk about marketing.
Excellent.
And Mr. Curry, the wonderful, amazing Alan, I was going to say Prost, but Curry.
Well, he's as fast as Alan Prost in his mind, isn't he? Good old Alan.
Yeah, in his mind, yeah. But don't know what he's like in real life.
I'm sure you put him behind the wheel, you'll be no slouch neither.
I imagine, I think he was the stunt driver for Husky and Starch, if you remember the professionals as well. Can you remember them?
Husky and Starch. I remember Husky and Starch, but was that what they were called? Friday Night Ammar?
No, it was called Starsky and Hutch. But I always pronounce it slightly differently. Is what I do.
Starsky and Hutch. Oh my God, man, that's a blast from the past, man.
They were like super cool, though, weren't they?
Yeah, they were.
And then there was Chips. Can you remember Chips?
Oh my God, Chips on the motorbike.
Yeah.
Chips on the motorbike.
Like they were just great days and great shows. I remember going to Pakistan, right? And we grew up to Knight Rider here. And I remember going to Pakistan and visiting some relatives. And look, the fact is when we talk about Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, South Asia, you've got extremities a bit like here, actually. So you have people that have very little here, and then you've got people who live in palaces, literally, right? And it's a slightly different, and because it's a second or whatever world type of, anyway, it's a developing type of country compared to here, and actually there's almost argument. If you ever listen to, and I always get distracted in our conversations, but Shashi Tharoor talks about how the GDP, India at the time, which incorporated Bangladesh and Pakistan, had the most significant GDP, gross domestic product, one of the foremost in the world, before the British Empire came and took all of its resources and built the UK. So the United Kingdom was actually built by Queen Victoria on the back of all of the money that was taken from India at the time. Anyway, that's not my point, but I just felt it relevant to point that out sometimes.
Yeah. Of course, and I think it's forgotten history in many ways, isn't it?
Well, it's incredible because we're talking about sort of 100 years ago, and people are living for 100 years. The amazing Captain Tom lived for 100 years. It's just like 100 years isn't as long as it used to be. Anyway, my point around television and talking about Pakistan and childhood experiences is that I was just trying to contextualize it, because I would hate for people to think that it was any of the Asian subcontinent or South Asia is actually backwards. Far from it. It's an incredibly rich country and countries now, and I imagine if India remained as India and Pakistan and Bangladesh, we didn't have that division. Imagine the powerhouse that would exist. It would be bigger than China. it would be literally, more powerful from an economic prosperity point of view than so many other places and spaces. Anyway, I just remember going to Pakistan, in Lahore. There was the huge houses where people still had people to help them out, and chefs and all the cleaners and all of this, and every house had a television. I then went to visit some relatives or rishtedars, as they are described in that particular language. And I remember going to a village, and it was literally a village. We don't have villages here in the UK are quite quaint, but actually they are disconnected. But they're quite quaint, and there's an element of affluence and such like within the UK. In Pakistan, there's like one black and white television, and it's outside. And I remember one of the experiences was, sitting at the front of the television, and then about watching it almost like you sat at a cinema, with 60, 70, 80 people and kids and everyone crowding around. And we were watching Knight Rider, because it was, the foremost. And Knight Rider was one of the biggest exports of television across the globe, wasn't it? Where you went, everybody knew Knight Rider. And
Yeah.
things like
Amazing.
that.
It was amazing in the, what, 80s, 90s, Ammar? 80s?
Yeah, 80s.
80s, wasn't it?
Yeah. And then there was things like, there was Blue Thunder and
Airwolf.
Yeah, so Airwolf came out, and then Blue Thunder came out. I must admit, I was more of an Airwolf person than a Blue Thunder person, but they were both entertaining. And yeah, it was, anyway, it's all good. Coming back to the future, yeah. 26th of March, we're sat here. It's quite interesting times. There's a sense of anticipation. There's a sense of excitement. But on the flip side, there's a sense of apprehension and a sense of anxiety. Because in 3 days' time, you're going to be able to meet people.
Really?
One family in your garden.
Wow. Amazing, man.
That's exactly. How crazy is that?
So what, you can meet someone else in the garden?
Yeah.
And that's only from this Monday?
Yeah.
But I've been watching lots of people meeting lots of people when I walk down the streets. When I go for my daily walk at the moment, Ammar, I go for my daily walk on the quayside on the riverfront, and there's a whole load of different families that are sat together having picnics and stuff already. Is it not like, is that the preview to the movie? The
that's illegal. Yeah, and it has been. And sadly, these people have been breaking the law. So, I'm going back to the rules. So how the rules will change. So let's just get the facts. I think it's very important to always have the facts. And it's a shame that people have been breaking the rules and meeting up with one another and sitting down, because whilst you were entitled to meet up with one other person whilst out exercising at a distance, you certainly weren't allowed to meet families and sit down anywhere. You were forbidden to sit down. In fact, it was quite explicit.
Yeah, that's fine. I think it's it's kind of quite regressive that he can't sit down if you wish to sit down. What if you're tired from the exercise and you want to sit down because you've done like
go home.
Yeah, but but home might be like 2 miles away, man, and the guy might be exhausted from his run.
Well, listen, Jeff, this is part of the problem. This is the biggest challenge that we've experienced.
It's a reality, though, isn't it? It's a human.
Well,
it's the reality, man. At the end of the day.
Listen,
Look,
the law's the law. Yeah, two
not
days ago, 2 days ago, right? So here's some interesting facts, right? Um, the the COVID or the pandemic law that was introduced in March last year, it
mm,
had it had some explicit rules and regulations. You were actually, the police were entitled, and still are because it was extended. The police are entitled to um, take you away and isolate you
mhm,
if you're a threat, or if they think you're a threat. The police
mhm,
powers have been amplified,
mhm,
increased, and and there were some 294 cases where people had been inappropriately, I wouldn't say illegally, because that was the law, it was the interpretation, but there was 200 and odd cases of people being wrongly arrested on the
mm.
back of law. Right now, it might not sound a lot in a population of 60 odd million, but that's far more than there should be at all. And the law, some of the laws and the powers that have been introduced were and are so significant that lots of people just don't realize. There's been more law changes in the last 12 months than there has been in the last 120 years. You
Yeah,
know,
of course. They're just putting them in through the back door. That's all they're doing. I mean, they're just it's not right what they're doing, and there is only very few people that understand this deeply. And as you've mentioned in the past, Lord Sumption is one of them, and he probably understands that more than anyone else in the country at the moment. But then you've got people that aren't justice ministers or haven't had a history of it for a number of years, that are going and changing the laws, which I feel is definitely against a number of human rights that everyone should still retain and be able to have. And it's just wrong. And they're just using the pandemic as a catalyst of introducing these draconian laws, which they keep on extending. And there is no opposition in this country because there is just one government. So they get everything passed through Parliament as they wish. This 6-month extension, when it comes to October, they'll extend it again and extend it again and extend it again. And next thing you know, that's just how it is. It's never going to go back. They can't just tell us it's here forever. So they have to pretend that, oh yeah, it's here for 6 weeks only, get used to it. And then it's here for 6 months, then it's here forever. And then you're going to tell me in October, that's not what's going to happen. I can bet you, I don't know, I don't have any money, but I can, I can bet you £1.
so Jeff, here's the thing, right? You know, one of the biggest concerns, can you remember in October time, we talked about the biggest security threat in the UK. People felt that the security services is civil unrest.
Mm.
So this is people rising, sort of
Yeah.
saying, enough's enough. We've started to see some of that, interestingly. You just need to
Yeah.
look at Bristol, right? Where it was horrific and it was outrageous what they'd done. No one anywhere should ever, ever fight the law against illegally and cause such willful damage to property. So no one should ever hit or abuse a fireman, a policeman, a police person, not just men,
Absolutely
women,
not.
when ambulance people. It is horrific. It's wrong.
It's absolutely categorically 100% wrong. It's also wrong for the police to do the same to the public.
Listen, absolutely. And what we've seen the day before, or the couple of days before, or the week before in London, which was quite interesting, was the police potentially, allegedly getting it wrong.
Not
The
allegedly. I've got images of the police actually literally kicking a guy on the ground. Why? You're not there to kick someone. If you want to arrest someone, you don't need to kick them to arrest them. You know, you can get their hands behind their backs. That doesn't involve kicking them when they're on the ground. I mean, that kind of thing that's there to be seen is just
thuggery.
outrageous.
Thuggery, it is what it is. If that really happened, then absolutely, this has to be a two-way thing. And I'll tell you what was interesting, just thinking about the police and how people were handled and whatever else. So I wouldn't say a good friend of ours, but certainly someone that we know particularly well is Ricky Tomlinson. And he's a great friend of Dave Anderson. Now, Ricky Tomlinson was prosecuted 40 years ago on the back of a strike, the Shrewsbury strike through the mines or whatever it is. He was actually sent to jail. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He was sent to jail.
Mm.
This actor,
Mm-hmm.
the famous actor, who's an incredible guy, was put in jail and prosecuted. And anyway, the Court of Appeal overturned quashed his quick conviction, actually. Quashed it, is what they do. So there's lots of examples of the police getting it wrong. I'm not suggesting they do. That doesn't give anybody the right to go and abuse.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I think it's the police have a responsibility. Yes, they've got these special powers at this moment in time, but they have a responsibility also to not use those special powers aggressively. And there was a protest in Newcastle, I think, there was a 20th one that happened around the country in London and Bristol, possibly. I think the next day it was here in London. I mean, in London, it was here in Newcastle. And I remember just, there was a policeman at the end of the road. I'm coming towards, Shakespeare Street. I'm just driving through Shakespeare Street, and I come towards the end where the corner is of the burger place, the underground burger place, and Theatre Royal. And there was a policeman, the police car parked. And as I was coming towards it, I was actually got so scared because of the aggression I could see in the way that, as though I was doing something wrong. I mean, all I was doing was coming down the road, and he blocked the road off temporarily, but then he moved his car because I had to get through. But the aggression that this police officer showed, it was actually quite scary. And they were obviously, they may have been given orders to deal with this particular protest in an aggressive way. And that certainly came across when I was just walking down the road just to pick up a delivery from the restaurant. So I think they have special powers, but with that, they should have special responsibility not to be aggressive. And I think maybe if they have that aggressive mentality, I think the public may have reacted to that in Bristol. I don't know. But if they are still just as calm and nice and being firm, but doing it in a nice way, I think they're going to get a much better reaction from the public. So I think, are they being given special instructions? Yes, you have special powers, be very aggressive. I don't think that's the right strategy. And I think, that's going to cause issues.
I think you're absolutely right. There needs to be an element of balance across this.
Mm.
At the on both sides, but in particular, it needs to be led by the leaders, Jeff. So the police on the ground tend to, and you're absolutely right. There should never be an exception to this. And if someone's aggressive, they're there to protect and serve.
Yeah.
Right. So to protect and serve, they're a public servant, is what they are, and we pay for them.
So try and tell them that, Mo. Imagine trying to tell them that. I mean, I don't think they look at it. I don't think they look at it like that.
Listen, that's
can you not get arrested for that?
No, well, it's not that's not a demeaning or a negative thing. Our doctors, our nurses, it doesn't matter where you are in the public sector. The fact is, it is a public sector, and it's defined as a public sector is because we, as individuals, I mean, I've just got a tax statement, it's outrageous, and I'm sat there thinking, am I making up my tax? Like, am I paying for like 10 other people? right? Because I haven't had a great year. No, I've suffered.
Mm.
But I'm then contributing, and then I look at my council tax, which has gone up the maximum that it could. I can't believe that you know, I'm paying like £600 a year. That's outrageous. But in my, I wish it was £600 a month more like it.
It's mad. It's mental what they've done to it.
If I look at VAT, right, where we can't recover anything, VAT, corporation tax, employers' contributions, personal self-assessment tax, tax on this, tax on that. I know I'm working for everybody else, because whilst I might, get the chance to have a green tea and things like that, and I might treat myself occasionally to a KFC or a McDonald's, I'm certainly not, sat there loading it, relaxing. I'm working 18-hour days is what I am. 18-hour days. I get up at 4:30 and I'm sat in front of a computer, and I'm going to bed at like 10, 11, sometimes even later than that at night. And I'm sat there, and all I'm doing is either looking after somebody, which I love doing, and clearly I do. The family is very important, but many a time I'm sacrificing so much just to be able to maintain a lifestyle.
Oh.
And I'm doing, and then when I look at, and it's not, I'm not unique. There's millions of other people. I'm not suggesting for 1 second that this is about me. I'm just sharing my experience. So if I'm paying for a public service, right, and that service is abusing its power or its position, then it's only fair and right that people speak up.
Absolutely. But you're not allowed to make any peaceful protest. Have they not changed that law as well, Ammar?
Yeah, they have. Yeah.
So you can't do anything.
Yeah.
And these are the laws that they have in Korea, China. When did we become? See, there's a list of countries.
Sick of the same old radio sound? Then you need vibrant radio. Spice up your life. Spice FM, 98.8 FM.
Everyone's staying in. Everyone getting on. Most of the time. Every extra thing we're having to do, every plan we put on hold, every sacrifice we're making. Everyone who stays at home is helping stop the spread of COVID-19. Because the less we leave home, the less likely we'll come into contact with the virus. Everything we're doing is making a difference. Let's keep going. Stay home. Protect the NHS. Save lives.
Dun, dun, dun. Yeah. Sorry, I was waiting for the various different.
Well, we never know. We never know how long these things are, do we?
No, we don't. That's a shame, isn't it? We should. We certainly should be briefed. And the fact that it came at 10:29 rather than 10:30. Not that I was sat here looking at the clock. Anyway, look, we can rant and rave. The point is, the vast majority of the police are amazing. Our NHS and look, the thing is,
everyone's staying in. Everyone getting on, most of the time. Every extra thing we're having to do, every plan we've put on hold, every sacrifice we're making. Everyone who stays at home is helping stop the spread of COVID-19. Because the less we leave home, the less likely we'll come into contact with the virus. Everything we're doing is making a difference. Let's keep going. Stay home, protect the NHS, save lives.
Don't know if it's finished. Is it a trick? Is it not?
I think it's done this time.
I don't think it is.
No?
Because both of those were in English.
Wow.
What should we do?
No, I would let's just continue, and if we get interrupted again, because it's
Then
in the
let's
best
do
interest
You
of.
can't protest. You certainly can't protest for certain. So the right of
Oh,
protest is gone, hasn't it?
you can't protest when it comes to public messages in the best interest of the public at this moment in time. So,
And certainly that's not what we would protest against. It's very important that we'll hear something. It's very important that people remain and continue to stay at home. I don't think they've got that message yet. And we have seen a bit of a peak in, a slight rise in infections. We're starting to see that as a consequence of people going to school. An interesting fact that I listened to yesterday on Radio 4 is that between the ages of 25 and 34, it can actually take up to 3 weeks to realize from infection, right? From becoming infected, it can take up to 3 weeks for that to manifest into real symptoms. So for 3 weeks, you could be going around.
yeah, but what are you supposed to do about that, Ammar? You can't cater for every variant, every eventuality, every scenario.
You need to stay at home is what you need to do, don't you?
Well, but some people could be getting depressed at home, looking at four walls all the time, and they just want to come out for a walk and get some fresh air. So at the end of the day, you got to understand that since this has not been for like a week, if it was something for a week to 2 weeks, everyone could. It was supposed to be a 3-week situation at the start to bring down this curve, and this is now going on since October. So I really personally, I do have sympathy for those that want to just get out, because I have people that go out for walks and I speak to them and I said, "Oh, how you guys doing?" And they said, "Well, look, I'm sick and tired of being at home. I needed to get out because I'm going mad." Now, what are they supposed to do? Go mad in the house, or come out a little bit more and get some fresh air and maybe see other people on the streets out and about? That's going to bring some order into their minds.
I get that, Jack, and I'm not suggesting that everyone sat or should be sat at home, sort of, getting driven up the wall type of thing. What I am saying though is that people need to appreciate and respect that unless we do this together. So I'm not saying like lock yourself away. It's important to get out. It's important to be able to physically see other people. Keep your distance.
Yeah, of course.
About how long you're getting out for. That's really, really important, Jack. The other thing is equally, otherwise what's going to happen is we're going to get to the 12th of April or the 10th of April, and we'll see a steady rise in what's going on, infection rates, and all that's going to do is then go, do you know what? We can't do this.
Well, that wouldn't surprise us if that's the stance that they take, to be honest.
And this is why I'd started the show with, there's excitement, there's anticipation, but there's equally anxiety and apprehension.
I think I would recommend that every operator don't go gung ho and start investing thousands of pounds on a potential reopening. You gotta just be and don't be too excited and be don't get too happy, because you may end up being really, really unhappy if circumstances and they change their decisions, which wouldn't surprise us. So you got to kind of be focused, but you got to be ready that there might be some bad news on the way too.
Yeah, but that's just life and business as well, isn't it? As in, you need to be able to become resilient I don't think, as far as I'm concerned, and am I a betting man? Don't know. The 12th of April will happen. There is no question about that. Unless all of a sudden we see and start seeing 1,000 people dying every day, as we had done previously, Jeff.
Mm.
There was 1,000 people dying every day is quite horrific.
Yeah.
That's shocking. Now Europe. So what worries me, Jaff, and I wrote this in an article, was one of the key drivers. Hello?
Yeah, sorry, I'm on.
One of the key drivers. Hello?
Yep.
Yeah. One of the key drivers. That's 3 times. So it must be 3 drivers. The 3 drivers, just, for me, getting a vaccine was the ability to go on holiday.
Mm.
That is really important to me.
Uh-huh.
It is absolutely critical, because it doesn't matter what I do here, and we were fortunate to get away at just bore the lockdown in December, so we managed to get an Airbnb up in Bamborough. Beautiful, wonderful space and place, but I was still in England, and I was still, it wasn't the same as sat in the sun, lying there.
Yeah.
With the sun and your
Yeah.
and relaxing and eating food and all of that. So anyway, one of the biggest drivers for me was the ability to go on holiday.
Yeah.
And we had booked up last year when we were able to, because we had to save up and pay for it over a period of time. It's a big deal. It's a big investment. It costs a lot of money. And so we opted to pay monthly for this holiday, and we've been beavering away, squirreling, not eating, giving up 1 or 2 McDonald's to pay a little bit more for the holiday and things like that. Anyway, so we're booked up to go in July.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a big driver for me,
Uh-huh.
the ability to go on holiday in July.
Yeah.
Now, if you read, for me, this is the same type of kick in the teeth, right? As we have done the hokey cokey. So are you going to open or you're not? From a mental health and well-being point of view, going on holiday is at the top of my list. It's genuinely, it's great. Restaurants are opening. It's great that bars are opening. It's great. I'm not going to be running out the door to go anywhere. Those things. This is my personal point of view. I'm delighted that everybody else is chomping at the bit, and it's wonderful to see the likes of Nigel Holiday sticking a tent up everywhere. That is able to stick a tent up. They're doing an amazing job, and there's a fair opening in North Shields. There's these teepees going up, and I'm so happy to see that. People like John Adamson, Hardwick, everyone's preparing. There's a real buzz, and even around here, all of the bars and restaurants are you can start seeing people to start preparing and all of that. People are booked up for 2-3 months in advance, and all of that. Fantastic. All I want is the ability to jump on a plane and just go and sit in the sun. That's all I want. And the likelihood is I'm not going to get it.
It's illegal, though, isn't it? Why don't you just be prepared to pay the $5,000, times that by 4, just to be able to get a bit of sun?
Well, if you're going
to, because if you're prepared to pay the $5,000 fine, will they let you leave the country?
No, I think there's a 10-year jail sentence associated with it as well.
What? And a $5,000 fine on top of that as well. That's pretty ridiculous, man. We could just say that, look, all right, then we'll pay the $5,000 fine as long as we can go on holiday.
One of the things that we're talking about is internationalization, and I'm delighted that we're going to shortly be joined by Gareth Bees, who's been developing an international trade strategy for the Northeast, Jeff. Gareth is a great guy, and it has is looking, as a consequence of EU, as a consequence of all of the challenges. We really need to take advantage of our strengths and explore looking at how we support organizations here in the Northeast start exporting, and working with the Department for International Trade and the Chamber and all of the trade bodies. Gareth's done a tremendous job, and we're going to have him on the show in a minute or two, just to give us a bit of a 10-minute update on what he's been doing, why he's been doing it, and the importance of it. And actually, when we've got the Curry Club on the 29th of April, the likelihood is Gareth will be talking about that as well. Because I don't know if you know, I don't know if I mentioned it, Jeff, but we signed an agreement with Pakistan for international trade a couple of weeks back. And we had the high commissioners of England and the UK even, and Pakistan and all of this, and we done a Zoom, and it was a great. And on Wednesday, I've entered into an agreement with the Netherlands as well, doing exactly the same. So there's some amazing opportunities, and we're building a 10,000 square foot international space station at Newcastle Airport. So the planning is gonna get approved in the next sort of 6 weeks, and hopefully by the end of the year, I'm gonna have a 10,000 square foot international space station at Newcastle Airport.
Amazing. How cool is that?
Amazing. And it's going to create 100 jobs. It's going to help companies like your good self take your brand global. And we're going to equally, all of the companies that we've worked with, Turkey, Dubai, all of the companies in Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, when they come over here, when Emirates start flying again, they're going to land here, and we're going to get them into the International Space Station, support them, acclimatize them, and then they'll move on to other places and spaces. It's the first of its kind in the UK. It's one of the first dedicated hubs in the world, and we've patented the International Space Station. Can you imagine that? NASA or the space, it hasn't been patented, and we've patented it. It's fantastic. Anyway, let's get Gareth in the room. He's here. He's patiently waiting. So let's say hello. Good morning, Gareth. Are you there? Hello, Gareth.
Hello, Gareth. No. Oh, there he is. I can see Gareth.
How you doing, guys?
Hey,
hello,
good morning, Gareth.
Good morning.
Welcome to Spice FM and our show being broadcast online as well. Please don't swear. You're live on air. I don't think you would ever swear, Gareth, but anyway, I'm sure there might be an exception to that somewhere, sometime. But yeah, wonderful. I was just sort of introducing you, your work, the incredible work that you've been doing on behalf of the Northeast region. So let's hand over to you, Gareth, and start by saying who you are, what you do, and why you do it, please.
Sure. Well, many thanks for having me on the show. It's been said by people before I've got a good face for radio, so hopefully I'm well suited for that. So my name's Gareth Bees. I'm working on behalf of the DIT, the Department of International Trade, that is the Northeast Chamber of Commerce, and primarily the Northeast LEP, to work on a 3-month project to pull together an export strategy for the Northeast LEP region. And it's part of a piece of work that's the levelling up agenda to try and restore parity in some of our northern regions, rather than just the wealth creation in the southern part of the UK. And as a result, all 11 northern powerhouse regions have had the chance to write their own export strategy to really bring together what the strengths of our regions are, and where their ambitions are going forward. So I've been spending my time trying to understand the strengths of the region. I've been talking to businesses, talking to stakeholders within the region to understand what are we good at, and where do we sell our products and services from the Northeast, and therefore where should our ambitions be in the future. So I'm coming towards the end of that 3-month project, but it's been really interesting for me so far, Ammar.
And it's great that we're looking at this. Do you want to, Gareth, explain the importance of the work that you're doing, certainly for those people and individuals that may not be aware of, well, why is
absolutely
strategy important?
Great prompt, Ammar. Well, in the Northeast, we export around about £10.5 billion worth of exports in terms of goods every year. That was in 2019. We also export through our services sector. So this is not products leaving our shores, but services that we provide to overseas companies. And that generated in 2018 a further £4.8 billion worth of revenues to the Northeast region. So overall, over £15.3 billion worth of export revenue coming into the Northeast LEP region. Also, from a jobs perspective, recent research has identified 168,000 jobs in the Northeast are dependent on exports. And importantly, the average salaries of those jobs are higher than the medians for the area. So they're actually better quality jobs on average than the average jobs in the region. So in essence, exporting is a significant part of our economy in the Northeast. It brings with it a large number of high quality jobs, and it also helps businesses that are in exporting become more productive and become more innovative through the exposure they have to that international trade. So in essence, exporting, is good for the region on a number of levels, Emma.
Amazing. And thank you for contextualizing that, because, certainly people like Jalf and I and vast majority will not appreciate the level and the amount. So 168,000 jobs is amazing. That's more than the number of businesses or certainly the SMEs that we have within the Northeast LEP area. And then that sort of nigh on £20 billion worth of trade is incredible. So, Gareth, what type of opportunities and benefits are there in developing this particular strategy for, say, as an example? So Jalf's, Jalf, do you want to introduce yourself? Jalf's the foremost restaurateur in the world, is what he is, but I'm sure he can tell you that.
No, Gareth, we are in restaurants, been in restaurants for a long time. We have got ambitions we try and do things on a national scale. We haven't really looked at things on an international scale at this moment in time, whilst we do a lot of business with people internationally in terms of importing, packaging, and obviously all the different spices and this, that, and the other. So the export, how to export and what products to exactly export, it's something that we could definitely look into in the future. We do have about 12 different trademarks associated with our businesses. And when we have trademarked them, they always ask the question, do you want to go into Europe? And to be a business at our stage, we've kind of not really looked into that, because we need to define exactly which products we could potentially export. And we are working on certain things because we are retailing in Phoenix shortly too. So maybe that's something definitely for sure we'll look at in the future.
Yeah,
and it's interesting that you talk about that, Jalf, because lots of people naturally wouldn't think about leisure hospitality. It's primarily manufacturing and pharmaceuticals and such like. But the fact that the service industry as a whole is quite significant.
I think Ammar, in this current pandemic, I think everyone's had to look at it outside the box and look at all of these top restaurants that can't have people coming into their restaurants. They've had lots of meal kits and spice kits, and so many ways of getting food out to people and their homes. And if you have a look at Europe overall, in terms of Indian cuisine, what I'm involved in, Gareth, outside of India, the best Indian cuisine is for sure in the UK. And Europe, if you compare what is available in Europe in terms of Indian cuisine, is absolutely rubbish. So there is a potential market there to export, whether it's meal kits and this, that, and the other. But that's kind of something that's for sure for us. There is a market there, but it's something that we haven't explored at all at this moment in time. Maybe it's in the future.
Yeah, interesting, Ammar. I must confess, I was listening to another radio station yesterday, and on 5 Live there was an interesting discussion about the export of foods into Europe. So very timely, and that article was exploring the challenges to exporters at the moment in the food and drink sector, and I guess that very much the problems that you've identified there, Jeff, domestically, and the way in which you've had to innovate your business to try and find routes to market during lockdowns. Europe has had the same thing. So many parts of the food and drink supply chain have had their demand in Europe reduced considerably, partly due to the pandemic and restaurants being shut in a number of countries in Europe, just as they have been here. But also, of course, some of the challenges within Brexit, some of which are, teething problems to a deal that was announced at very short notice. But I'm sure within that there are some real challenges that between government and businesses, we need to work to try and overcome. Food and drink, interestingly, in some of the analysis I've done, and it's not one of the sort of largest sectors for the Northeast region, but I did some work to compare and analyse the relative performance of all sectors within the Northeast with how those sectors perform in other parts of the UK. And the food and drink sector in the Northeast, despite us having large agricultural areas within the region as well as urban areas, with businesses and restaurants and such like, we actually underperform versus the UK average in terms of food and drink exports. So whilst it's not one of our biggest areas, I'll certainly be mentioning it in my strategy as an area that I think quite possibly has hidden potential to grow its exports further.
I think my friends at Wyland Brewery, they've been really, really struggling with their exports because of this. Since Brexit, I think they just can't export to Europe at all, and that was a really big business for them. I think they have raised it in the House of Commons via our local MP, and I think Michael Gove himself has promised to have a conversation with them. So obviously, the Brexit has not helped exports in the region for sure.
Yeah, I think in the short term, you're undoubtedly right there, and I guess one of the key messages that will be part of my strategy work is that after a really difficult time throughout COVID and Brexit, many businesses have had to really focus on just survival, and when we're in that very short term mode for many businesses, it's quite challenging to look further ahead into developing the business plan in the future. And whilst I recognise and agree that there are still challenges around the Brexit, frictionless trade arrangements that need attention, I think there's a real opportunity and a sense of rebooting that as we start to come out of lockdown step by step. I think from a business perspective, hopefully with some slight stabilization in certain parts of the economy, revisiting those plans in the top drawer about, well, I did think about exporting in the past, and maybe I should dust down those plans and have a look at it, is a real opportunity. I think there are some really good tools out there from people like the Department of International Trade. They run an export academy, which is an excellent resource that is effectively a mini training plan to help raise businesses' understanding of some of the the ways in which you go about building an export plan, combined with other support organisations like the Centre of Excellence, like the Business Growth Hub. So I think there's lots of help out there. We'll be trying to knit some of that help together a little bit more strongly going forwards. But I'd certainly encourage businesses where they think they've got the grain of an idea. If you've got a good product or a service that works and has some differentiation that your customers value in the UK, it might well be transferable, and it could be a real interesting way to grow your business further. So I'd encourage all businesses as we come out of this pandemic to have an open mind and think about the potential benefits of exporting.
Amazing. And Gareth, you had organised a survey which we'd pushed out. Is that now closed? Is there still an opportunity for people to contribute?
I think we have done some interim analysis on the basis that my work has to it has some deadlines in terms of having to report. So I've taken a closure on that, but absolutely the survey does still remain open. So it can still accept responses. I think we had just under 200 responses, which from a total survey of sort of, I think it was just shy of 8,000 people received the survey. So it's told us some useful things about what exporters find as challenges and some of the things that they think are important when exporting. It probably told us a little bit less, if I'm honest, about the problems that are perceived by non-exporters, which is one of the things that we're really interested in. So we'll be looking to do some more research in the future to probe that area a little bit further.
Excellent.
Amazing. Well, thank you ever so much, Gareth, for coming on. Appreciate it was short and sweet, but it was very powerful, I think. Is there anything else you'd like to leave our listeners with?
No, I think I'd just like to say thank you to you, Ammar, for letting me come on. Appreciate it, and nice to meet you too, Jalf. And just like to, I guess, in closing, say that during the time I've spent here in the Northeast, talked to some fantastic businesses, and as somebody that is not originally from the Northeast, I would say I've been surprised by the power and the strength of some of the sectors and the businesses.
Protesters have gathered outside Batley Grammar School near Bradford after claims children were shown a cartoon deemed offensive to the Islamic faith. The teacher allegedly responsible since been suspended. We spoke to parents who want further action taken.
No problem.
Suspending a teacher is not good enough for me. I need that guy to punish even that.